Everyone wants to get rich. But in 2025, there isn't just one path. There are dozens. Some are clever. Some are shady. Some will land you in a mansion. And others in a prison cell. From scamming strangers on Instagram, to building the next billion-dollar invention in your garage, to cashing out on a meme coin you barely remember buying. This is every single way people are getting rich this year, explained. Scammer. You wake up one morning and decide you're too clever to waste life working a regular job. Why spend 40 years in a cubicle when you could convince some guy in Ohio that you're a Nigerian prince in need of help moving millions? You start small. Fake concert tickets, a few shady eBay listings, maybe an investment opportunity that's really just your bank account. Then you scale up a pyramid scheme, a phony charity, maybe even a full Shopify store selling products that don't exist. Before long, you've perfected the art of taking cash from strangers without ever seeing their faces. Then one day, you strike gold, a fake luxury watch shop. You throw some stock photos on Instagram and start selling $10,000 Rolexes for $7,500. Orders pour in, your balance skyrockets, and you can't believe people are still buying the lie. Everyone hates scammers but secretly respects the hustle until the FBI shows up at 4 a.m. and suddenly you're explaining to your cellmate how you once sold thin air for 6 figures. The inventor. It's 2 a.m. You're in your garage, surrounded by broken appliances, empty Red Bull cans, and the faint smell of burning plastic. Most people would see a junk pile. You see the future. You've already failed with the self-toasting bread knife and that solar-powered flashlight, but this time feels different. You piece together a bizarre-looking prototype out of duct tape, spare wires, and a blender motor, and somehow, it works. You slap on a ridiculous name, post a video, and overnight it blows up. Suddenly, companies are calling with million-dollar offers, and you're not even sure how to respond. A month later, you're rich, famous, and giving TED Talks on innovation, leaving out the part where your billion-dollar idea came from gluing the wrong parts together. Pro gamer. Your parents always said gaming all day wouldn't pay. Now you're sitting in a $4,000 gaming chair, behind a PC worth more than a car, raking in sponsorship deals for pressing buttons faster than anyone else. When you started, it was just you, a friend, and Nightbot watching your Twitch stream. But then you got good. Really good. You carried your friend to third place in an online tournament, then another, then another. Suddenly, you're flown out to arenas packed with screaming fans watching you frag strangers on a giant screen. You're making more in prize money, merch, and deals than your parents ever did in their best year. The best part? All those wasted hours were actually career training. Now you can play all day, guilt-free, and never have to touch grass. Again. Lawsuit lottery winner. When people ask what you do, you tell them you're a lawyer. Sounds respectable. In truth, you've never studied law a day in your life. Your career started the day you slipped down the stairs at McDonald's. You hired a personal injury attorney, claimed the steps were unsafe, and spent months listening to lawyers debate the angle of a handrail. You sat in court, nodding like you understood the jargon, secretly hoping for enough money to clear your debts. Then came the verdict: McDonald's owed you so much money you haven't worked a day since. Now you say you work in law, even though the closest you got was signing an NDA at the end of the trial. Freelancer. You like to say you're self-employed, which is really just code for beating the system. No boss. No commute. No Monday meetings. Just you, a laptop, and the freedom to work anywhere. You started small, writing a blog post here, designing a logo there. Soon you were charging real money for work you could do in sweatpants. Now you wake up whenever you want, take 3-hour lunch breaks, and work from coffee shops, beaches, or bed. You choose your clients, set your rates, and don't need anyone's permission for time off. Sure, you're sometimes working at 2 a.m., but that's only because you spent all afternoon doing nothing, and you wouldn't have it any other way. Politician. You realized early on that money doesn't always have to be earned, it can be voted in. You started small, shaking hands, kissing babies, making promises you'd never deliver on. You ran for a local seat, won by a landslide, and now get paid to sit in meetings nodding at things you barely understand. The salary's decent, but the real wealth comes later. Campaign donations that somehow stick around. Consulting fees from your friends' companies. Property deals approved through shell companies owned by your family. Every speech is polished to sound inspiring but vague enough to mean nothing. You've mastered talking for 20 minutes without saying a thing, and that skill alone keeps you in office for decades. By retirement, you've gone from broke idealist to millionaire public servant. Half the population thinks you did it for them, and the other half can't prove otherwise. Drug dealer. You figure out early that supply and demand is faster when your product is addictive. At first, it's just small sales to friends. Then it's club bathrooms, convincing reluctant buyers. But word spreads, your friend's friend wants some now. Suddenly you're making more in a weekend than most make in a month, just by answering late-night calls and meeting in parking lots. You upgrade your car, wardrobe, and phone, and everyone assumes you just have a great job. In truth, your office is your back seat, and your hours are whenever someone's desperate enough to pay double. It's risky, sure, one mistake and you're in cuffs. But the cash is so quick, it feels like rules don't apply. You tell yourself it's temporary, just a way to stack cash. Deep down, you know you'll never see a 9-to-5 paycheck the same way again. Investor. You learned early that real wealth isn't about grinding harder, but making money work for you. You start small, maybe a few shares in a company your dad recommended. Suddenly, you're hooked. Stock charts become your favorite reading material. Every dip feels like a buying chance, though you're terrified to pull the trigger. Every green day makes you feel like a genius. You branch out, stocks, real estate, maybe a risky startup or two your friends haven't heard of. Some bets tank, others explode, but the wins cover the losses easily. Your goal, earn more in passive income than you ever did clocking in. Now your workday is checking numbers between rounds of golf. People call it luck, but you know it's part strategy, part patience, and part resisting the urge to panic sell. Even now, you feel that itch to dump stocks on dips and FOMO buy at all-time highs. But at least you've already made it. Online degenerate. You somehow turned wasting time online into a full-time job. It all started with harmless late-night scrolling. You kept seeing this weird cartoon and giant eyes, lopsided grin, bright green skin. The caption just said Zaggle. You ignored it at first. But then Zaggle popped up again. And again. Every video, Zaggle dancing, Zaggle in a limbo, Zaggle holding stacks of cash. It was everywhere, and hilarious. Finally, you click the link in a bio and realize it's a memecoin. You throw in $200, because that cash was just going into sports betting anyway. A week later, you're doom scrolling when you see a TikTok post about Zaggle again. Curious, you check your wallet, your $200 is still there. You refresh. Suddenly, it's worth 7 figures. You have no idea why, but you've gone from random TikTok user to accidental millionaire, all because a smiling green blob took over your feed. You cash out half, leave half for the culture, and celebrate with Chrome Hearts, Uber Eats, and more bets. Course seller. You realize fast it's easier to make money teaching others how to get rich than actually doing it. You throw together a proven system made of buzzwords stolen from other creators, slap it into a PDF, and call yourself a mentor. You rent a Lamborghini, film yourself with a laptop by a pool, and tell people they can quit their 9-to-5 if they follow your steps. The course costs $499, but you run a limited-time discount every single day of the year. Soon, strangers are wiring you thousands for advice they could have Googled for free. You're making more from selling dreams than you ever made chasing them. Deep down, you know most of your students will fail, but failure just makes them hungrier for your next course. Like, subscribe, better think.